Okay, it is, after 7, we have everybody here that's going to be here for the meeting. We do have a quorum, so we're gonna start the meeting. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting held May 30th. I do have, we received an email, at the water district, and there was some corrections that need to be made on the, minutes. On item C, sub-item B, we have Don Gardner's presentation. There's a few bits of information within this summary that I think need to be corrected. I would change everything after distribution of PowerPoint documents and presentations. That next line, I would change to highlighting the need for consolidation and work in cooperation with the city, in place of what's there in reference to water and sewer and Missouri American. That would be my recommendation for a correction.
Gotcha.
Anybody see any other corrections on the minutes? I'd entertain a motion that we approve the minutes as amended.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Thank you. Seeing that we have nobody who's scheduled for public speaking, we'll move on to the financial report. Alan?
Okay, I think everybody has three different things. One is a packet of financial statements. The second one is just for your review, a review of all the checks written for the month of May. And the third piece is a summary of payroll by employee. So you can review the last two. I think you might approve the expenditures, but I'll start with the financial statements. And so you've got your packet, and on page 2 of your packet, you can see what balance sheet, essentially statement of net position. This are assets, liability, and net worth. Total cash spread out between 4 or 5 accounts. 4 accounts really, and some petty cash is $22,900 and change. That has been dropping, as you guys have seen over the last couple months, and that's going to be a discussion later when we talk about the rates. And so when you see that cash balance dropping, we know that we're not making money. Money is not the right term, but we're not showing a net profit in terms of operations. Accounts receivable, you can look and see 27,000 and change. Construction materials roughly 39,000, and then certificates of deposit. There still are certificates of deposit of around 300,000. So there are cash reserves, and at the rate that you're depleting cash, I mean, you're gonna have to. My recommendation is you're gonna have to do something with the rates, which we'll talk about later tonight. It just will not sustain a burn rate of an indefinite period of time. A few liabilities for federal taxes, a few liabilities for accrued expenses, and $68,000 of refundable customer deposits. So total assets of $873,000, including an estimate of your net capital assets divided with the distribution system. $80,000 in liabilities, and a net worth or net position of $792,000. So that $792,000 net worth is not necessarily a bad number. It's right now we need to get a handle on the cash outflow versus the cash inflow. Okay, any questions on the balance sheet, the assets and liabilities? If we flip over to page 3, you will see both for the month of May and for year to date, the revenue and the operating expenses, and then the net result is on the sheet. And you'll see water sales, 27,000 for the month of May, a little bit less than the month before, but relatively consistent. 150,000 year to date. That's a little bit less than we would have projected, but it's also taken in January, February, March, what we would consider low usage months. We weren't here, last year to see the monthly allocation of that. So it's not overly alarming in terms of revenue, and it doesn't look like it's a significant decrease from what our expectation was.
How we going?
Pretty good, thank you. In the financial report,
How's your rate study go?
we're getting ready to go over.
Oh, sorry. My interruption.
So a little over $28,000 in total revenues after we account for the mailing of certified letters, fees, etc. 157,000 just shy of year to date. You can scan through and see all of your operating expenses, and you're going to notice 2 big ones. which we talked about last month, payroll expense, and in particular, system maintenance and repair. You see that of the $50,000 total operating expenses for the month of May, almost 22,000 of that was for system maintenance and repairs. And that coupled, and so that's 2/3 of the revenue just by itself. Now, it's hard as the accountant to determine what's an ordinary and necessary repair, because I have no idea. I can only see the impact of the numbers, and we'll talk about that, but that number is higher. And you can see, if you look at the year-to-date for maintenance and repair, 110,000 and change, we can see it's not just a bad month for May, really. It's been 5 months at about that level. 21,000, almost 22 times 5 months is 110,000. So it has been consistently over that. Our understanding is, though, a lot of repairs have been made, a lot of leaks have been fixed that are gonna benefit the district in the future. And so there may be some value to that expenditure. My comment is only restricted to cash flow. Payroll expense, also that second largest expense of 13,000 and change. And that has been consistent really for January, February, March with the new changes. But we understand with the resignation of the operator and the changing out of the employee inside the office, that probably is going to be going forward. Well, that's a big expense now, it's gonna be probably a beneficial change. I bring these two things up because both of these factors were considered when we did our rate increase. We kind of looked back through last year, or 2024 year to date. And we knew there was some changes, that we hoped would happen with system maintenance and repair, and we knew were going to happen with payroll expense. But at any rate, total operating expenses for May were 50,000. We compare that to $28,000 and change with revenue, just a little bit of interest income, and we see that we lost $21,000 for May. If you look to the column on the right, we see a similar, not as drastic of a change for year to date. 156,000 in revenue, like I mentioned, almost 157, but $230,000 in change of operating expense, almost half of that for the maintenance and repair. And that has us at a loss of a little over $73,000 for the year, which at this point, I have mentioned a couple times, we're looking at the rates, and I'd like to take some time, but we're kind of out of time, so at least with my comfort level, so I have a rate increase to discuss tonight, based on this burn rate and the changes that we talked about with respect to payroll and the hope changes in maintenance and repair. So that's it for revenues and expenses and assets and liabilities. You've got the disbursement list to look over, and you've got the payroll list. Are there any questions on any of those?
No, nothing. No. I will say that, you and I sat down and kind of went over some of the, numbers so I can understand your rate, study and where you came up with it, and we were kind of looking at, the fact that when John Dottie did, join our company as operations manager, his immediate task was to repair significant repairs that he could find, that would affect the water loss, as well as, get us more on the track for automation. Our short-term plan that, our long-term planning committee came up with last year was a 1-year plan. A lot of the things within that plan we've been knocking out, and as a result, in that first half of the year, we spent a significant amount of funds trying to get caught up. Generators online, booster pumps are the way they should be. The Trotty's coming down. We have our chlorinators online. Everything is put in place that we were behind on at the beginning of the year when John came on. John did do a lot of work, and as a result, did spend a lot of money in those 2 line items that we're talking about. I foresee both of those line items significantly going down now that we've gotten caught up to a lot of that, especially the headwaters or the well house repairs and upgrades that needed to be made. Definitely gives us a more proactive instead of reactive response up there, and it's going to save headaches and time and money going down the road. So I foresee those 2 line items coming down significantly over time. I think we even talked about the line repairs, system maintenance and repairs to be somewhere in the $7,000 to $10,000 range. We kind of ran that number by Mona. I think she kind of had a little hesitation, but I think that's the direction that we're definitely going. So that would definitely get us out of the purging money the way we have been over the first part of the year trying to get caught up. So, anybody have any questions? Do you have any questions? No. Okay, Alan, appreciate it. Did you have anything else for the financial report?
I do not.
Total expenses, total checks written, $50,009.70. I would entertain a motion to approve the disbursements for the month of May.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any additional questions on the motion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to operations report, Mona.
Well, basically, the operations report is the same as last month because I did May at that time because we were at the end of the month. So, I really have nothing more to add to that part of it. We have done a few repairs this last week, which of course will be in the June report. And, that, hopefully will continue to keep coming down, so.
When John was on staff, he did, determine that we more than likely have a significant leak at the bottom of Northwoods in the wooded area. We were waiting for that to dry. We may wanna get, considering the steepness of that and the equipment needing to get in there, we may wanna get an estimate from one of our contractors on, roughly what that repair is gonna cost. Possibly, because that is definitely one with the amount of water that's surfacing down there, we definitely need to get that fixed. I think that would cut back a lot of our loss in the Northwood and Buttonwood area.
We're going to attack one tomorrow down on Cedar that we've been trying to determine where it was coming from, and I think we finally located where that spot is, so hopefully that will slow some more down there.
Sounding device helping to find those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Do you think that was money well spent?
very well spent.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Mona?
No.
Okay, we have no old business, we're gonna move on to new business. Amanda, I wanted, first of all, Mona, I wanna thank you for covering the office. You put in quite a few hours at the office to make sure that we had it staffed correctly. We had a little bit of a medical emergency with one of our staff members, and she was out of the office, pretty touch and go there for a little while. We're glad to have Amanda back. Amanda, I appreciate, you keeping us in the loop on what was going on, and
It wasn't me.
yeah, and I'm glad you're upright and doing well,
Yeah.
so, but, I wanted to thank, Mona for stepping in, and, with her cross-training with Amanda, over the course of Amanda being with the Water District, Mona did shadow with her and did learn a lot of her job, so in a pinch, she was able to step in and fill that spot as needed, so I do wanna thank you guys for holding down the fort. I know, we've come up and opened and shut gates and stuff like that for you, but,
Give me a week and then I'll be.
that was a little part of it all, but, I appreciate you guys keeping the doors open and keeping, the customers informed on what was going on, so, thank you. So under new business, we have personnel matters. We started this year with 2 full-time office personnel, because that's what we had before. Bringing on the accounting firm, which was one of the things that we wanted to do to try to get our numbers squared and make sure that we were collecting the right amount of money for the amount that we're spending and get a handle on that. The accounting firm has taken over a lot of the accounting side of the business, and Amanda came to us, I think at last meeting we had mentioned it, that she would take on the role of billing as well as the office manager, and feels like she's capable of doing that. I feel like I jinxed her a little bit at that meeting, 'cause I think I even mentioned that what happens if you get sick, and then of course, days later.
Yeah.
So I feel a little bit bad about that, but I think your rationale for eliminating that position and absorbing it into your job description, we'll just rewrite your job description, but I think that's gonna be a financially feasible way to save money for the water district, as well as kind of streamline what needs to be done. I spoke with Alan a little bit about it, and he feels like, with what they're taking on with the accounting firm, that would probably be a good move, so. So it comes down to the question of, pay. Now, I spoke with Alan, you were not there at that meeting, but I spoke with Alan about, being that he's an accounting firm, has worked with others. I know what I pay at my shop, and I know, job description versus pay. I think you were currently making $15.50 an hour, correct?
That's
Okay. I asked Alan kind of his opinion on it. I kind of knew where I wanted to be, and in order to make an offer, if you're gonna take on that extra responsibility, I said we need to bump you to $20 an hour. Alan agreed that's probably the going rate for the amount of responsibility you'll have on your shoulders as a result of that, eliminating that position. I have not talked with anybody else on the board in regards to that, but I would say that if we're eliminating that position and you are going to take on the full responsibility, I'd recommend to the board that we increase that dollar per hour for that position to be $20 an hour. The net savings to the water district is significant, by eliminating an entire full-time position with benefits.
I guess I just have one question. When you had the accounting firm came in and, you're saying that we're saving money, do we really know what, by eliminating one person from the staff to what the accounting firm is charging us? Do we have a real difference there yet?
It's not gonna make up the entire amount that we're paying the accounting firm without a doubt. There's no way. But however, it gives a third-party responsibility, and transparency to the public on the accounting of the water district, which before everything was handled in-house. we
Yeah,
had
I
audit
get
at the end
that.
of the year.
I'm more concerned about the fact that we have an outflow going.
Right.
And we need to get a control of that. So, yes, we are gonna eliminate a person from the staff, but at what expense is that? Is the outflow gonna get larger because the accounting firm is costing us more?
The accounting firm will not increase, the contract that we have with the accounting firm is fixed. Amanda's just gonna take on all the office responsibilities, which is lessened from what it used to be prior to having the accounting firm on staff.
Okay, all right. I gotta take your word for it, I don't really know, but, I'm okay with that.
What are your thoughts?
Well, do we know what the difference is gonna be also with losing John as well? What's that difference gonna be between what we were paying John to do his job, but now we have to pay contractors?
Well, that's the other thing, we need to start prioritizing our repairs. That's why when Alan and I were talking about that, we're talking about a repair budget each month. Obviously, if there's a major break, you have no choice, you have to call in an emergency repair. But as we do scheduled repairs, we were looking at a budget of between $7,000 to $10,000 for line repairs, through contractors. One of the things that I would like to do is I'd like to sit down, John has offered, even though he's no longer employed with the water district, to help us with, drawing up, expectations for, the contractors that we have on our short list, as far as, understanding their pay, their base fees to get out there, things of that sort, so we can kind of break it down. Alan and I had looked over an invoice that came in the day we were working, on the rate increase, so I can kind of understand what was coming. And we kind of looked over that bill, and we had some questions from Mona, but I think it would be better for us to have a work session and work over exactly what, we would expect from the subcontractors, so we know exactly what we're getting into every time we call them. We have a pretty good understanding that we have a billable amount that they charge us, but I'd like to have that on record, so we have it on paper. So we say if we have $10,000 to spend this month in repairs, how are we gonna go about doing that? And schedule multiple repairs on the same day, which Mona's really good at doing, lining up multiple repairs, so we're not paying that base, we're getting the maximum we can out of the money we spend.
We don't have any of these, contractors under any contract when you start doing
No, not currently, no. We have a short list of people that will respond for emergency calls, and will respond for general maintenance, and these are people that Mona's had, experience working with this water district as well as others.
As we get things tightened up here, I would like to see, trying to get somebody under contract to try to get rates that are conducive for both us and them. It's a give and take, and get a secondary contractor, because that first one may not always be available.
And that's kind of where we're at now. We have a couple that we have go-tos. Mona, can you, fill them in on which contractors we're currently using?
Currently, we've been using, Adam Rager Landscaping, and then, we also have Carr Excavating that will come. And usually if one of them can't come, the other one will. Like he said, I've worked with them for years, and they're very good about it. If I call, they put me ahead of everybody else. So it has worked very well for me. And then there's, other contractors that I have worked with. I try to work with ones that they're building a house, so that we don't have to call in another contractor if they're already there. And so it just depends on what the situation, is. I also have kind of a running agreement that if they are in the area and say they can't get a job on, going, they can call me, and if I've got something, then they'll come take care of it. We had that happen today. They didn't get their, permit that they needed, so they called me, and so they're going to be here tomorrow to take care of it, so.
Nice, good.
But like I say, I've been very loyal to them throughout the years, and they're very loyal to me. Then, as far as their rates go, they all have a base rate. I believe Adams was $350 for the call out, and then, it's so much for their trailer truck, their dump truck, whatever equipment they're bringing in, because they are furnishing the equipment. Usually there's 2, sometimes 3 guys, and I believe the one bill that we were looking at averaged out at like $200 per hour for 2 guys and all of the equipment.
There was a dump truck on a mini excavator and, two guys, averaged out to $200 an hour, yeah,
Yeah.
for all the equipment and the.
And, the next day that they were there, it actually averaged out to $100 an hour. So it just depends on what jobs they're working on, and, but lots of times they're there at 7:30 in the morning and done by almost noon. So as you probably have seen, when the water's off, it's generally back on by noon.
Well, why don't we try this, Mona, since obviously we have a new board member here, and we need to talk about, trying to figure out how to budget the major line repairs. Let's have a meeting sometime, you, me, and Amanda, and we'll go over, what each one of these contractors that we're currently using, what their fees are, and see if we can't get a statement from them, what their fees are, so that we can present it. I can get that information to you, and if you wanna work out, maybe how we need to go forward on, locking down, possibly a main contractor, secondary, that kind of thing, or a round robin or something like that.
Just to look at it, be perfect.
Yeah, it'd be great, so.
The only thing, that we do, is we furnish all the parts.
Right.
Mhm.
So that is not, in, their costs.
But it should be a lot easier for us to figure out that,
Yeah, and well, it's just that we get our own price breaks on parts, so there's no markup there.
Okay, yeah. If I can sidetrack one thing, with the Northwoods repair, have we been talking to anybody yet about that repair?
As far as,
You talking about the one I was talking about?
Yeah, at Northwoods?
Are you talking about Northwoods, or are you talking about, Irish Hills? Did I say
Oh.
Northwoods?
Yeah, I think you did.
I meant Irish
It is
Hills, I'm
Irish
sorry,
Hills.
yeah, it's
I
Irish
think-
Hills.
yeah, Irish
Yeah.
Hills, we call that one that we're looking at.
The one that's in the
Trying to
woods,
find-
that-
Yeah, we call that the Blarney Swamp,
Yeah, it tracks away from the pond rather than going across the dam and the
and,
pond, which is
the,
not the way it's mapped on our system.
they have gone down and tried to find it with the listening device, but they're gonna have to go down and actually, spend more time in the woods itself, and, with the overgrowth and that, they're gonna have to, it'll take some time to find, and it's very steep down there, so they will have to, be careful with their equipment going down in, no matter which one goes down in.
Right, well, now that John's gone, we're gonna need somebody else to do it.
We were going to have to anyway,
Okay,
Because
yes,
of
yes.
that particular thing, we did not have the equipment that could do it.
But
Yeah,
we haven't
we have a
actually,
backhoe, not a mini excavator, and it's
Right.
not really.
but we haven't talked to anybody yet, that's my,
No, I have been talking to my guys,
okay,
and they have looked at it and, like I say, they had decided that they were going to need to be able to get down into the woods more.
It
right.
was pretty
Yeah,
soupy for a while.
before they
It's
could try
finally-
and
Hopefully
track it
like
down.
a day like today, maybe it's starting to dry out.
Yeah, well, that was the first thing, it was because of the rain, and now that
Yeah.
it's drying out, then, they, hope to be able to get down in there.
Thank you, thank you.
But on a repair like that, I'd like to get, at least a ballpark estimate of where we're gonna be at, for, for them to get down there, cut whatever brush they need to cut to get, to the area.
Mhm.
Obviously, when you start digging, you don't know until you see it, but, I know John had a pretty good idea of the general location where it was coming from. He does know, we do know that the line was not following the road like it shows it on their map, because that would have put it directly across the dam. It was definitely skirted the pond, off the dam down the hill somewhere. It was not documented,
Yeah.
documented properly.
We think it might be in the electric easement,
Hmm.
and so if
We
it's in-
definitely need to do some more exploring and figure out.
if
exactly
it's in
what
that
it's like.
easement, then it's going down and around and back. So it's gonna take some just hunting.
Okay,
So back to the personnel matters, as far as eliminating the second office position, and Amanda's raise, taking on the additional responsibilities. Do I have a consensus that that's an acceptable range? What are your thoughts?
yes,
Okay. All right, I entertain a motion that we eliminate the billing position in the office, and Amanda would absorb those responsibilities with a pay increase of $4.50, bringing her up to $20 an hour.
I'll make a motion.
second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion on the motion?
no,
Thank you. Approved. Oh, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Approved, sorry. Got ahead of myself there, I'm sorry. All right, Alan, you're up for the Rosie Good information.
Okay, I think you have a letter with a few calculations on it, behind it. And the short answer is, based on, your historical data is difficult to determine what the rate should be because the situation was different, the employee status was different, the amount of expenditures in 2024, particularly for system maintenance and repair, has been higher. In 2023, I think there was some anomaly, was it Northwoods, where was the booster pump at?
That was the Northwoods extension. That was probably, it goes back prior to me being on the board, so I don't know how many years prior. I'd have to go back and look at the research on that, but it was a project that expanded a number of years, for various different reasons, but, it finally was completed last year, so.
So you have some mitigating factors there in terms of extra expenses that we hope and expect will not be there going forward. Having said that, the rates now are not sufficient to meet the operating expenses as we have seen for the last couple of months, and specifically we talked about this month. To get the rates where it's cash positive and sustainable, then I think they need to be 26, I don't think the base rate needs to change, 2638, but I don't think there should be any water associated with that. I think that should just be a connection fee for your district. And on the usage rate, I would suggest shifting that to per 1,000 gallons rather than per 100 gallons, and raising that to $8 per 1,000. Right now, you have about 850, give or take, people connections that are paying that base rate, that $26.38. But you only have about 650 to 670, depending on the month, paying the usage fee. So that would suggest we've got a couple hundred people suggesting or connected to the system but not using water, or at least using $1,000 or less of water. So I think you need to capture that revenue, but I also think you should get that rate up to $8 per gallon. That will increase. I've probably put it somewhere. My guess would be that would get the average bill up to $56 per month in that range. And that's based on average usage of about $3,800. And I have rounded that number down to try to be a little bit conservative. If there's an engineering report that comes back and says A, B, C, and D have to be done and this is what it will cost, we'll have to evaluate that to see, okay, whatever capital improvement costs are suggested and approved by the board, is that sufficient? This should be sufficient for the current expenditures, taking into account the changes in staff. And to address that change in staff, you're losing a position. So that's where the savings really is, you're losing a position. Like, in my office is not contracted, I mean, we could be terminated any time, so that can be evaluated by the board as you see fit. But that's where the savings, it wasn't we were coming on and someone was letting go, it was, that position was.
Oh, I understand that, I understood
Okay.
that, but, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then we have accounted for the reduction in the operation managers. And we have allowed a budget, and this is where we have a little bit of discomfort, but I put $9,500 in per month for system maintenance, and that's based on an estimate, talking with Mona, of maybe $7,000 to $8,000 for repairs, but we also have supplies and parts that you're having to purchase every single month regardless of that, and that's where that's coming. And we'll be watching that closely, and we'll hope that 2023 numbers were high because of Northwoods, and 2024 numbers were high because of the leaks located and the repairs and the projects that were done in the first 5 months. But that number does need to be monitored very closely, and all these suggestions that you're talking about, getting fixed bids for non-emergency work, getting bids for emergency work, and working your way down the line, and bundling repairs if you can, and making an assessment of if something has a slow trickle leak that's costing X amount of dollars in utilities for ongoing versus $25,000 repair, I'm making that number up. Just make an assessment of how urgent is the need. I don't wanna be penny wise and pound foolish or suggest you cut off your nose to spite your face, and I'm an accountant, so my inclination is always to save money rather than do a fix, and you'll have to weigh that yourself, because you guys will know better what's operational. I just would like to see, it bothers me a little bit if we have the same person coming all the time with no notice, because it could be two things. It could be exactly as Mona said, hey, this person's on you on the spot and they're really helping. It also could be, that is their best client, and they're going to do whatever they can to serve that client. So I don't know the answer, and I'm not making any allegations or accusations with it. I just think this conversation that you're having about getting these people lined up and managing the cost to the extent you can and establishing priorities will be critical to getting that system and maintenance and repair number at a manageable level for the work you've got. And it could just be that there's still a bunch of maintenance and repairs that have to be done, and we'll just have to keep watching. But that is the rate, I think, that will get you sustainable and cash positive for the rest of 2024 and going forward. But it will need to be monitored closely. And we'll have to maybe consider adjusting, when we get a report from the engineer on what will be done with future capital repairs. That will be in the coming year to years, probably not in the coming months. Are there any questions in general about this? It's a substantial rate increase, but it's a necessary rate increase if the goal is to be solvent, and you have to be solvent.
Oh, I agree with that statement. I think it's a little rich to do all at once. I think we do need to go up some, but I think we need to work really hard at controlling expenses and costs. Now, where the happy medium is in between there, or 2/3 of what you're suggesting, or what, I don't know what that is yet. And I don't know, I don't know, I'd like to hear your thoughts about what you think.
I mean, for a district our size, what's the average monthly
Repair and maintenance, or what?
bill in general? Like, we're looking at the rates, right, or we expect to 6, 7,
Well,
8.
unfortunately, there is no absolute number, but $26 is a little high on the connection fee, and $8 is a little high on the usage fee. The problem is, you're making up for, in my judgment, you're making up for rates that haven't been increased or stayed even over the years, and it's going to cost more to address that, and there's nothing that we can do. I would suggest that you consider $13 a month, give or take, whatever the number is, maybe it's $14 or $15 a month. That is a substantial increase. But the question in my mind is, can you afford not to do that? And I don't think you can. And so if you had the luxury of spreading this out over time you can entertain it. I don't think it's a worthwhile exercise, because I think you'll end up right back at the same spot where you'll have to do it, and I think you'll have missed out on those months, of the lost revenue for that. You guys certainly can discuss it and try to pinpoint certain expenses and try to reduce them. A lot of the expenses though, and certainly your biggest expenses, are unknown in terms of maintenance and repair. So it is a dangerous game to play.
Agreed.
So, I had thought about this, I had a meeting with Alan earlier this week just to kind of go over what he was gonna present and talk about the significant changes that have taken place since he started looking at the rate study. Mona was there, so we were able to get some input from her as far as the cost repairs. And so, my thoughts are, if we're gonna suggest a rate increase to the public, I would like to publish what we're proposing and have a vote on it at the next meeting. That gives people 30 days to take a look at what we're proposing. Alan, we're okay to go 30 days and make the rate increase next month?
Yes, I just don't think it's something that should be.
Put off too long. Yeah. I'd like to get public input on this because we do represent the water district and its customers. In that meantime, in that 30-day meantime, lastly, we can work on figuring out ways to look at the line items and budget and figure out ways that we can put some caps on some of those line items and see if we can't get it under control. That way we can maybe meet in the middle or in some way.
Exactly, yeah.
Since you were not on the board when we originally did the budget at the beginning of this year, I think it'd be beneficial for us to talk about that and definitely go over it.
For at least the next 3 months, I'll still be saying I'm new and I'm learning. Then I'll be different.
So that would be my recommendation, that with a new member on the board, that we go over, some of the budget line items and see if there is some cost savings, that we can do before we increase the rate, but in the meantime, definitely publish the proposed rate increase, that Alan has brought to us and the reasons for the rate increase, the proposed rate increase, and we can kind of go from there. That'll give us some feedback from the public, that we can obviously take into consideration, so. What are you guys' thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm not fine with agreeing to what the rate increase is yet.
Right.
But, okay, yeah.
And how are we gonna?
As of right now, it's proposed, we can get it on the website, we can also get it on Facebook. We'll draw up the rate increase proposal, and the reasons for the rate increase proposal. Publish that and ask for feedback from the public. Does that sound like a reasonable approach, the rest of the board down there?
What would be the extra expense of when we send out the next bills that we put a flyer in with the bill?
About
And
$490.
how much?
$490.
Okay. Sounds like a lot, but it might be worthwhile to make sure that everybody gets the notice of what we're trying to do. Otherwise, if we're just doing it online or in Facebook,
I agree.
not everyone's gonna know.
I agree.
The other question I have, if we're gonna sit down and talk about the billing, whether or not it would be a quorum or not, Bill, I've got a question on that.
Yes.
Did Twigs, Mr. Twigs, did he
He
actually
did.
send a letter of
He
resignation?
did drop it off. I put it in I was so efficient, I put it in the file and then boom, I was gone. I do have it and
Okay.
I will attach it, to the next.
So William Twigs has officially resigned from the board?
Correct,
Okay. I'd like to get that letter, out to
Okay.
the, existing board members,
yes,
so we can definitely start looking.
okay.
I get that listed out there, that we do have vacancies on the board we need to fill, so. My question for, our bill, so being that we have 4 members of the board, only 3 present here, if I sit in with them and fill them in on the budget that we adopted at the beginning of the year, that would not constitute a quorum, 2 out of 4? Because we need 3 for a quorum, correct?
Thought you have 3 here.
We have 3 here, but I'm talking about if me and him going to sit down at the office and go over the budget to try to work out some details.
You can do that, you can't have more than 2 though.
Okay, that's fine. Sound like a plan?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll go over that'll at least get you up to speed on the budget and give a little historical data as far as, you know, what's going on this year and how we got here, so. I think that'd be beneficial, because I really appreciate your opinion after you're fully, you know, informed on where the budget was at and where we're at now.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Would it be helpful to you if I do a summary of other districts and find out what their average, you say your average bill is only 3,600 gallons?
3,800. One of the challenges of this district is the water usage is lower than a lot of other districts, and you have a lot of people connected that are not using water than other districts.
Other than a few months out of the year.
And then a few months out of the year, so
Oh,
that,
they're customer,
Yeah,
they're
so that's-
vacation customers?
yeah, so that's driving these rates up. When you ask about comparative, well, most of the other districts have 12 months of users, and they also have most everybody connected is actually using water. One of the limitations in our calculation is reflected that we've got a low usage on average of 3,800, and we've got about 200 people out of 800, 200 customers that are only paying that minimum, and there's no usage.
Well, let me ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Those people who are very seasonal, why can't we also put them at a little bit different scale, because of the short term?
You need to treat all customers equally?
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the reason why, you look, so Kimberling City is unique in a lot of sense, because we are, somewhat a seasonal and tourist community. You could reflect that in the rates, making the base rate larger and the volumetric rate lower. It would then draw in more money from people who are not using the volumetric. That's one option that we could adjust the rate accordingly, which would, you know, and we can run the numbers on a 3,800 gallon usage on average for the people who are here year round, and determine whether or not it accommodates what you're saying, that the connection gets you know, charged at a higher rate than the volumetric rate, which would balance that out, what you were trying to say, and we'd still be treating every customer the same.
Okay.
You would just shift the cost to the base rate versus the volumetric rate, and that would offset that to a certain extent.
I appreciate that lesson, that's good, I appreciate it.
So, so given that, I think we'll sit down as soon as we can.
Okay.
I'm open to schedule, just let me know when you're available.
I'm retired.
Okay, well then let's make it, today is Monday, let's make it later on this week.
Okay.
And let's get together. Amanda, I'll get with you, because I know you're still on a somewhat limited schedule, although I got a feeling that's gonna be really hard for you to do, your personality wise. But we'll get together and we'll sit down and hammer out, the budget and go over some of the details and see if, you don't have some good ideas for us to try to cut the numbers back a little bit.
Okay.
How long does that work for you? We'll do that. We'll, probably call you or pick your brain, after that meeting and see what your input is on that.
Okay. Just let me know if you want me to come down.
Okay, I definitely will. That may be beneficial too.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll, after the meeting, we'll talk and figure out when's a good time. So. Anything else from anybody else? Hearing none, the meeting stands adjourned. Thank you. If you can get us a summary of it, that would be great. Yeah, that would be awesome. That would definitely help us out.
They have the boards.